Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're opening up what is quite literally a cosmic cold case. We're going to be looking deep into the historical night sky, specifically focusing on fast astronomical transients found in archival photographic plates. So let's just dive right into this investigation together and uncover a mystery that has lingered in astronomical archives for more than half a century. Just imagine looking up at the stars back in the early 1950s. You see a sudden, brilliant flash of light, and then, just as quickly, it's gone. For decades, when astronomers found evidence of these fleeting flashes on old photographic plates, they were met with extreme skepticism. Were these real cosmic events shining down on us, or were they simply dismissed as dust, scratches, or chemical defects on a fragile piece of glass? Well, that is the core of our mystery today. All right, part 1. The Vanishing Star Mystery. So, researchers, especially those involved with initiatives like the Vasco Project, have been relentlessly hunting for true transient events. We're talking about stars or light sources that mysteriously vanish or appear when you compare a century's worth of astronomical observations. They've scoured archival photographic plates, like those from the famous Palomar sky surveys, searching for anomalies. But, whenever they actually found a vanishing star, they hit a massive wall of doubt. Which brings us to Section 2, the plate artifact problem. This was the major roadblock scientists faced. Think about it. How do you prove that a tiny dot on a 70-year-old photograph is actually a star, and not just a physical flaw? You have this stark contrast. On one side, we have real astronomical transients, genuine light from space that traveled across the cosmos to hit the telescope. And on the other side, we have plate artifacts. Skeptics reasonably argued that the vanished stars scientists were finding were simply unaccounted for defects on the old photographic emulsion. When a single artifact can mimic a star perfectly, how can you possibly trust the data? Let's examine the usual suspects in our mystery. These are the mundane artifacts that can easily trick modern software into seeing a star where there absolutely isn't one. We're talking about dust particles and microhairs settling on the glass. We're talking about chemical leaching, where aging 1950s paper envelopes slowly degraded and stained the plates stored inside them. Even ambient radiation or a careless fingerprint could leave a permanent mark. These artifacts were essentially the perfect alibi for the universe, hiding whatever real flashes might have occurred. But every perfect crime leaves a trace. Section 3. Coma. An optical fingerprint. The absolute key to cracking this whole case is something called coma aberration. Coma is this optical distortion that's pretty common in simple historical telescopes. It causes off-axis point sources of light to elongate. So instead of a perfect round dot, the star looks like a tiny comet, complete with a bright core, sweeping wings, and a tail. Normally, astronomers absolutely hate coma because it distorts their images. But here, it literally becomes our ultimate weapon for the truth. This beautifully illustrates exactly how it works. You can see how light rays coming into the telescope at an angle lose their symmetry. They create overlapping, continuously enlarged circles right at the focal surface. And then you see the actual result, a real chromatic star image. Notice that specific, winged optical signature popping against the dark background. It is a highly complex, mathematically precise shape. So here is the absolutely crucial point. Plate artifacts have zero relationship with telescope optics. A speck of dust falling on a plate in a darkroom didn't travel through the telescope's lenses, right? Therefore, a chemical stain or a microhair cannot naturally reproduce this exact, beautifully complex coma fingerprint. If an anomaly on the photograph shows this specific coma shape pointing in the correct direction relative to the center of the plate, it must have been created by genuine light traveling through the telescope. All right, Section 4. Discovering the hidden transients. Armed with this optical fingerprint, the investigation moved to the experimental phase. Researchers rigorously analyzed exactly 532 archival plate pairs. These were specifically chosen from the 0.6-meter Doppler reflector telescope at the Hamburger Sternwarte, spanning from the years 1934 to 1957. Why stop at 1957? Well, because October 1957 was the launch of Sputnik, and they wanted to avoid any contamination from modern space debris and satellites reflecting sunlight. They were looking for a completely pristine pre-spaceflight sky. Now, take a really close look at this evidence. You see a transient event, a distinct dark spot on the historical negative. It firmly displays that comet-like coma shape we just learned about. But when you compare that to the exact same coordinates in the modern night sky, it is completely empty. The star, or whatever flashed that night, is simply gone. Out of those 532 rigorous plate comparisons, here is the dramatic reveal. Exactly 11 valid, fast astronomical transients were discovered. 11 distinct instances where a mysterious flash of light bore the undeniable optical signature of the telescope's coma. These were definitely not dust. These were not scratches. To be absolutely 100% certain, researchers mapped the density of these marks. Looking at the pseudo-color log density mapping, you can clearly see the bright, highly concentrated core smoothly transitioning into the faint, sweeping wing structures of the coma. This proves unequivocally that these 11 events were exposed by genuine, focused light. Which brings us to Section 5, Strange Clusters and Unanswered Questions. Solving one mystery really only uncovered a much deeper, eerier one. Remember, the data spanned 23 years, from 1934 to 1957. Yet, all 11 valid transients strangely clustered within a very tight 4-year window. We see one in late 1949, 2 in 1950, a sudden burst of 5 events in early 1951, and 3 in 1953. The other 19 years analyzed? Completely silent. And it actually gets stranger. They weren't just clustered in time. They were clustered in space. All 11 of these transients appeared in just 2 highly localized, incredibly specific regions of the night sky. Sometimes multiple flashes happened on the exact same night, separated by just minutes, clustered tightly together. These were not random cosmic fireworks. So what in the world were they? We have to systematically eliminate the standard explanations. Asteroids? Ruled out. The exposure times were 10 minutes long. An asteroid would have left a blurred streak, not a sharp point, and their speeds just don't match. Internal telescope reflections, or ghosting? Ruled out. Because the researchers used pairs of plates taken back to back, a ghost image would appear on both. But these transients vanished or appeared between exposures, and ordinary dust, as we firmly established, is ruled out by that beautiful coma optical fingerprint. This leaves us with some truly fascinating open hypotheses. Could they be unconfirmed, highly unusual upper atmosphere lightning or luminous effects? Or perhaps more intriguingly, could they be sunlight glints bouncing off tumbling, highly reflective, mirror-like objects in near-Earth space? Remember, this was years before humans ever launched Sputnik. Now, there is one more historical correlation noted in the source material, and we impartially report the data as it exists here. Several of these transient clusters actually occurred within days or weeks of atmospheric nuclear tests right here on Earth. For instance, the cluster of 5 events in 1951 happened shortly after the Operation Ranger atomic tests. The cluster in 1953 followed closely after Operation Upshot Knothole. The researchers explicitly state that the data cannot yet confirm if this is a genuine physical correlation or merely a chance coincidence due to a very small sample size, but the timing remains a fascinating detail of the era. So, what should you take away from all of this? Well, the data currently cannot confirm the ultimate physical origin of the light. We don't know exactly what flashed, but the meticulous forensic work, specifically leveraging the coma aberration, proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that these were not photographic defects. The optical evidence confirms these were real, brief flashes of light in the physical sky. Which leaves us right back where we started, but with a confirmed reality instead of a dismissed artifact. If these 11 precise flashes of light weren't just dust on a photograph, what exactly was shining down on us in the early 1950s? Thank you for joining this explainer. Keep looking up and stay curious about the cold cases of our cosmos.